So, are you struggling to find time for your passion and wondered how successful writers balance deadlines, creativity, and real life? Today, we are going to dive into time management for writers, how they can beat procrastination, stay focused, and actually finish their projects. Whether you're a writer, a creator, or just anyone trying to make time for what matters, this episode is packed with game changing productivity hack. So let's get started. Welcome to the Minute Mastery Podcast, a place where busy authors and entrepreneurs create time for what truly matters. I'm your host, Ngozi Edema, a time management coach, writer, and entrepreneur. Here you are encouraged to turn your minutes into milestones and to create at least 1 hour a day working on your goals without feeling overwhelmed. And since you are here, I thought I'd let you know of a storybook to gift your little one. Step into the world of Princess Sanzo, the sunflower princess, admired and loved by all the other flowers. But something happened to Princess Sanzo. Immerse yourself in a captivating story that will tug at your heartstring and leave you longing for a world where empathy and understanding prevail. Witness the consequences of the princess' arrogance and follow her path to redemption as she learns the value of humility and the power of embracing others with open arms. Within the pages of The Proud Sunflower, you'll find what real beauty is. Through the vivid storytelling and powerful illustrations, The Proud Sunflower serves as a gentle reminder that we all need to stand on the shoulders of others in order to succeed. So read the story and allow the universal language of empathy, forgiveness, and personal growth to shine through with your child as you read the story together. The Proud Sunflower is a top book of parenting, morals, and responsibility, and is available in the Kindle store and paperback formats. Excellent for beginner readers. Click in this episode show notes to order yours today and check out my other storybooks to read with your kids or gift a child a storybook. You'll find the links to this book and all the other books in this episode webpage and on YouTube's description. Jones Loflin is a keynote speaker, a coach, author, and he helps individuals and organizations struggling with too much to do. With decades of experience, he offers simple yet powerful strategies for focus, time management, and change. His books include Juggling Elephants and Always Growing. His latest book, Focus as a Bee, offers fresh insight on how to maintain focus in a world where we are constantly being distracted. Welcome to the Minute Mastery, Jones.
Oh, Ngozi, it's a pleasure to be with you. I love the focus of your work, turning those minutes into milestones. And I really appreciate the fact that you gave your listeners a chance to learn about a book for children. That they can read and learn, because we know that we've got to get kids started early in reading. If they develop it then, they're going to read throughout their lives. So thank you for the work you're doing on that side as well.
Thank you very much. Now, before we dive into the main questions I want to ask you, I'm just curious. Your books have animal themes, juggling elephants, focus as bees. Why did you choose animals in helping people cope with time management? I will tell you something. Today, I am researching the harvester ants. The ants is mentioned in the Bible, and in fact, the Bible tells people to go to the ants and check and learn from the ants. So I really like it when people use animals to bring out real life situations. So what is your background? Why did you choose those?
Sure. I several years ago, I was introduced to the power of story in business parables with the book Who Moved My Cheese. That book came out around 2000, actually 1998, and I love the message in there, the story. And of course, it had two mice in it, so there's another one for you, Ngozi.
Yeah, the
Um,
mice.
but I love the story because I was able to look at that story and go, where am I? And what should my next step be to make progress on change? And so after I fell in love with that, I decided that anything I wrote, I would like for it to be in a story, a narrative, to give people the opportunity to see where they are and what they can do to move forward. Juggling elephants comes from the idea that you would never see the juggling elephants act in a circus because it's impossible. But when we try to get everything done, that's like juggling elephants. It's impossible, right? That's why you talk about, you've got to prioritize. You've got to plan for that hour a day. It's not going to magically show up. And so that's why we used, co-wrote the book, but why we used elephants in that one. The focus is a bee. My daughter and I are beekeepers and have been for about 6 years. We love the experience, love the journey, and we began to learn about how bees get so much done. I mean, you check on them 1 week versus next week, and you're like, how'd you get so much done in 7 days? And so we started, looking at kind of what they do, and we said, there's some application for us. And so that then became, principles we were living by. And once we said, these work, then that's when we started the process that became the book that's now focused as a bee.
Thank you very much for giving us insight into that. So many people start their day with good intentions, but get derailed by distractions, me inclusive sometimes. What is one habit that can keep them on track?
Sure. You mentioned, you kind of introduced it a moment ago, Ngozi, when you said when they start their day. I think too many people start their day just with the first crisis, the first emergency, the first urgent thing, the first thing that pops into their mind, their text or their email. And so they're already starting their day kind of chasing the urgent to stay busy, if you will. A powerful way to improve and not be as distracted is to start your day and say, what do I want from today? What are the outcomes I want? What do I want to get done? Where am I going to put that hour I want that you mentioned earlier, and plan that in their day so that their mind has a plan. It has a process on saying, okay, this is what you want to get done versus just kind of saying, okay, what's next? Because we all know that what's next may not be important. It may just be convenient for you to work on.
Thank you. So you talk about the importance of being available unavailable at times to stay focused. How can someone implement that without feeling guilty, especially family members want you, friends want you? How
Yeah.
can you do
Oh,
that?
absolutely. Your question brings to mind a conversation I had with a mom the other day, and she was talking about, oh, I wish I had, more time for myself. And as we worked through some of her situation, I said to her, how would you be a better mom if you took 15 minutes for yourself in the morning or first thing when you came home from work? And she immediately said, oh, I'd be more patient with my children. And I said, okay, then there's the valuable of being unavailable for those 15 minutes is that you're going to be more relaxed. You're going to have more energy, and you'll be more patient with your child when you are with them in that moment. And so I think a way that we can think about being unavailable is, what is that time going to give me that's going to help me be better at what I do? When I work with leaders and managers and organizations, it's the same thing. They say, oh, I've got to be available with my team. And I'm like, yes, your team needs you available at times. Your team also needs you to be thinking about strategy, looking at changes that are coming up, how you're going to develop them. And I said, you won't have the space to do that if you're just always being available to everyone. I said, it's important to train them that, hey, this is a space during the day that I'm going to have my door closed, or I'm not going to be immediately available. If it's an emergency, Absolutely. Knock on my door, come find me, call me. But if it's not an emergency, I'm going to be unavailable for this period of time because I would be working on things that's going to make me a better leader or manager for you. And so I think that's what we have to think about. How am I going to be better if I make that time to be unavailable?
Thank you. It sounds like what I do with my kids sometimes when they were younger. I used to tell them, I mean, I hardly take naps during the day, but there are times that I feel like I need to rest and take even 20 minutes nap. And I go, I shut the door. Before I shut the door, I tell them, don't call me unless the house is on fire.
Exactly. You get it. Yeah.
Don't call me if there's a fire, there's an emergency, then you call me. Don't come and ask me, I can't find the butter. Have we run out of butter? Or I can't find the milk? Or I can't find jam? Those are not important.
Oh, it's so true. And it's and what you're talking about that you did with your kids. People in companies and organizations have to do the same thing. They need to let their people know this is what's an acceptable interruption and this is not. And that helps people grow. Your
Yeah.
children, if they knew the only reason they could interrupt you was in case there was a fire or an emergency, they would figure out where the butter was at, or they would figure out where something they need to get. You were growing them because you were unavailable, and so the next time they need that, they don't have to come running, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could do it on their own.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
good for you.
down to this day, if they see me sleeping, they don't wake me up. So they know that has always been my standing rule. Don't wake me up because it takes time for me to go back to sleep. And
Yeah,
if I'm
yeah,
sleeping, you don't interrupt my sleep because it kind of gets me irritated and all of that. So I
yeah.
say, don't wake me up unless there is an emergency.
Right. Good for you. Good
Yes.
for you.
So, but sometimes I can tell my kids, don't wake me up, but my phone wakes me up. So, in a world full of notifications, meetings, endless to do lists, how can we create an environment that supports focus?
Yeah. You said one of the most important things is where's that technology? How are you using technology? One of the misconceptions people have about focus is that they can immediately move into a focus mode, or as we call in the book, a honey flow state or the flow state. It takes work. And so whenever someone wants to really get into deep work and be able to concentrate, I think it's important to check the environment around you. Where's my phone? Are the notifications on? Or do I need to put it on airplane mode, or do I need to move it away? Do I have other tabs closed on my computer so that I can focus just on the one thing that I should be working on? Have I communicated to my team, like we talked about earlier? Have I communicated to my team that I'm going to be, need this focus time, or is this something, that they know about? I think it's creating that environment where you can focus, because then we could talk about, what do you see? It is fascinating to me, Ngozi, when I'm doing a coaching session with a client, and I'll say, let's just say the client's name is Jake, and I'll say, Jake, do you see anything right now that's distracting you? He'll say, yeah, I've got that, stack of papers, or if he's working remotely, he might say, I've got this pile of unfolded laundry. And I said, how often do you think about that? He says, well, every time I look at it. I'm like, exactly. That's distracting you from being able to focus on the work in front of you. Could you turn to a different direction? Do you need to go to a different room? If you're in an office space, is there a conference room or somewhere you can go to get away from some of those visual distractions? Sound is the same way. If you're hearing sounds that distract you, then your mind is working to try to focus, and it's not doing a good job of either one. And so those are some ways I think we can begin to create that environment where it's easier for our mind to move into that flow state and get that deeper work done.
Thank you. So, yeah, I like the next question I want to find out from you because my my target audience are writers and
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an entrepreneur, eventually you hope that you're going to invite other people to work with you. And so you form a team. And we all have different personalities and we all work differently. So if you are the leader of a team, you are the entrepreneur, you own the business, or even if you don't own the business, you are in charge of key things or key roles in the company or whatever you're
Yep.
doing. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you help your team members? Now you're working with a group of people, how can you cultivate a culture of focus in the workplace when everyone is constantly being pulled from different directions, but now you want all of you to work together, focus on doing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. One of the things I think is important is to establish some guidelines or boundaries as a team, and what does communication look like? Are we if someone sends a Teams or a Slack message, or is it expected that you reply to that immediately, or can it be an hour or a couple hours? What constitutes an interruption that you can be interrupted for when you're trying to get work done? Should you respond to emails, after work or not? If one person, as you said, some people have different work habits. If somebody likes to log on at 8 o'clock at night and send out a lot of emails or requests and those things, is the person who came in at 7 o'clock or started working at 7 and likes to finish up at 3 or 4, should they respond to those emails? Or should they have permission to say, okay, I'm not going to be reading them till the next morning and I'll be at work before you ever start. But I think there has to be some agreements about how do we work with each other together so we aren't constantly interrupting each other with notifications or requests for information. And teams that do that actually set up some boundaries, some guidelines, I find work much more effectively with each other. The other thing, as a leader or manager, I think you have to look at your team and say, what do they need to focus? Do we need no meetings Friday? Do we need to give them permission to block off time in their calendar so they aren't having meetings back to back to back to back to back? What can I do? What's within my ability to control to help give them that space to really do deep work during the day?
Thank you. Yeah, it reminds me of even with families and children, if you don't have a structure where
Mm.
everyone knows what they should be doing, it makes life difficult. I know sometimes people are worried when there is structure where they tell you you need to follow certain rules and certain time limit, but structures are like safeguards. If you are driving on the road and there is no rule, it's going to be
Yeah.
even with the rules, sometimes I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what on earth
Mm-hmm.
is he doing or what on earth is she doing? But if you're driving on a road with no rules and everybody is allowed to do whatever they like, it's a scary situation. So having
Yeah.
some form of structure and everyone is sure of where they need to be and what they should be doing, it makes life much more easier. So
Oh,
structure
absolutely.
is always a great thing to have in any setup.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the role of energy management in maintaining focus, and how can people avoid burnout while staying productive? I love
Yeah.
this.
Well, thank you. And understand these are all my own challenges too. I wish I would, Ngozi, maybe you've got it all figured out. I don't.
Nobody gets it 100% figured out. We are
Exactly.
all,
I tell people that when I have it figured out, I'll be dead and it won't matter.
yeah,
But the role of it, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk
no,
over
I
you.
said we are all work in progress.
Exactly.
So, as long as you are doing
Exactly.
something useful every day towards improving yourself, that is a great
Yes.
thing.
Absolutely. Okay. Energy management. The brain uses about 25% of our body's energy. So if we're trying to focus, which requires a lot of mental energy, then our minds, our brains are working overtime to try to stay focused on that task. So it becomes critical that we are using our time wisely to take care of our bodies, whether that is exercise, whether it's sleep, whether it's nutrition, even staying hydrated. Doing all of those things creates that environment I talked about where it's easier to move into a state where you can do deep work, where you can really focus on something. So one of the things that we encourage people to do when it comes to energy management is after you've been focusing for a while, then step away. Stop. Go do something to get some rest. Here's a fascinating fact. You talk about animals, Ngozi. I'm about to make you fall in love with the honeybees. Okay? You
Okay,
ready? You ready? Here we go. Here we go. Honeybees in a healthy hive take as many as 40 naps per day.
40 naps per day.
Yeah, yeah. Now, they're not an hour at a time. Okay, they're not, they're not taking half. But the research has shown that they do actually slow down and they stop and they what we would call a nap, but they just for a few seconds they will rest. The reason is because they know that something may happen in the next moment that they need to be prepared for, that they need to be focused on. Think about what the application is for us in managing our energy. I mentioned I mentioned the example of back-to-back meetings. Every one of those meetings takes mental energy. You're trying to focus. If you're participating in those meetings back to back, by the time you get to the third meeting, you're wiped out. You're not listening to what someone else is saying. And if you can give yourself some space to say, I need permission to recharge. I need to stop and just take a little time for myself. We're not talking a long time, but take a few minutes to rest and stop focusing. Then the next moment when we need to focus, we'll have that energy to be ready to do it. But if we're constantly working, in fact, that's the whole idea when people talk about the title of the book, Focused as a Bee. People say, well, it's busy as a bee because bees are always busy.
Yeah.
No. Busy implies activity without direction. Focused means they're using their time and energy towards what's most important. Bees know that, hey, I need to stop every now and then because I may be called on to do something in the next moment that's going to require a lot of energy, and I want to be ready.
Hmm. Wow. Amazing. I will go and read
It
that.
is.
I'll go and read that up. I love those. So if someone is listening today and feeling overwhelmed and scattered, what is the first step they can take right now to improve their focus?
Yeah, great question. I think the first step is to simply ask yourself, what is it that you want to accomplish? What do you want to get done that's not getting done? When people talk about feeling overwhelmed, what are you overwhelmed with? What are you overwhelmed by? And people say everything. I'm like, well, that's not helpful. You're a time management coach. I can't help with everything.
No.
Let's pick one. And so once somebody tells me, yeah, this is what's not happening for me that I want to have happen, then I can say to them, okay, what does that look like in terms of time per day or per week? Then once they've identified that, they'll say, okay, let's see if we can go find that for you, or at least part of that. If people aren't accustomed to focusing for long periods of time, maybe we start with short periods of time. I gave the example a few moments ago of starting your day, and somebody who maybe wants 30 minutes for themselves, I might say to them, could you start with 5? And they're like, yeah, I guess I could, but that's not 30. I'm like, yeah, but you're not doing anything right now. Let's start with 5 minutes. How could you focus on yourself for 5 minutes? And that's easy for people to say, well, I'd take some deep breaths. I'd do some stretching. I'd walk outside. I'd look out the window. Okay, great. Now, how do we build boundaries around that so that can happen each day? And then once you've done that, where I'm going, Ngozi, that builds momentum. Because once you're successful that 5 minutes, you're going, wow, that felt great to focus on me for 5 minutes. I want more. Like,
Yeah.
great, but they have to start small. That's one of the things about bees that fascinates me again. Bees are so consistent with little things they do. And for example, in the life of a honeybee, one honeybee, it will only create 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. 1/12 of a teaspoon. That's not a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all the bees working together that create the pints or the quarts or the whole hives of honey that they have. But each bee does their part consistently. And I think that's what's important for people when they want to start improving their focus. What little thing could you do consistently that over time could have a big result?
Hmm. Thank you. And so, what if someone is suffering from procrastination? Is there a way that
Wait a
focusing on?
minute. I don't know. I'll tell you later, Ngozi. Fascinating. My first question to them is what do you think is causing you to procrastinate on this task? And sometimes they'll say, I don't know how it's going to turn out. Okay, fair statement. But what happens if you don't take a step to start finishing it? And of course, they say, well, I'm never going to find out. I think the number one reason people procrastinate is because something feels overwhelming. It feels big. It feels hard to get done. And going back to our friends, the honeybees again, honeybees do one job at a time based on age or based on the need of the hive. If they reach the point where they're foraging, they go forage. They go look for nectar and pollen. They don't look for nectar and pollen and then go over here and feed the baby bees and then clean out the hive and do all those other things. They choose one thing until it's done. When people are procrastinating, I encourage them, what is a small one job related to this task that you could do that doesn't feel overwhelming? And they might say, I need to make a phone call. I'm like, okay, we're close. We're close. I said, what's something even smaller than that? They said, I need to figure out when I'm going to make the phone call. Great. Great. Okay. That's small. Is that overwhelming? No, I can figure out when I'm going to make a phone call, Jones. Great. Okay. When are you going to make the phone call? Well, I'm going to make it tomorrow afternoon at 3:00. Fantastic. Okay, excellent. Got that on our calendar. Then the next step, okay, what's the next step? What? And they said, well, I need to come up with the questions to ask. Oh, okay. That seems a little hard to me. Let's make it simpler. What could you do? It says, well, I need to come up with 3 questions to ask. Like, excellent. Okay. There we go. And you just break it down into those small steps that people can make progress on and go, I did something. I made
Yeah.
progress, even
Yes.
if it's small. The other thing that I encourage people to do as it relates to procrastination is make sure you're communicating with someone that you want to do the thing or you want to work on the thing. And it's somebody who will encourage you in a positive way, because sometimes our procrastination is because we're not holding ourselves accountable. And if we can find a friend or a colleague at work who will lovingly
Yeah.
check in on us, say, hey, how's that thing going? What that accountability sometimes will cause us to start working to make progress on that thing we've been procrastinating on.
Thank you. So, if people want to connect with you, first, what would they do? They hope to expect, and where can they find you?
Sure, absolutely. People want to connect with me, Ngozi. One of the places I put a lot of information out is on LinkedIn. So they can simply go to LinkedIn and type in Jones Loflin, and you're going to have that in the show notes. And so they can go there and connect with me. I always love connecting with listeners from podcasts like yours as we all grow together. Of course, my website, jonesloflin.com. If they want to learn more about Focused as a Bee, then they can simply go to focusedasabee.com, learn more about the book. Or for your listeners, I have a special link that's simply jonesloflin.com/podcast. They can go get ideas specific to today's podcast to apply to their own lives. We've even got an assessment on there so they can figure out where their challenges are related to focus, what they need to do to improve, and some other resources there to help them on their journey to be able to thrive because they're focusing on the right thing at the right moment.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, those are powerful resources.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So, thanks for coming to the Minute Mastery Podcast, Jones.
Oh, my pleasure, Ngozi. You're a delight. I look forward to a future conversation with you. And if you like, we'll talk about the elephants then.
Oh, okay. That would be great. That would be great. I would love to hear that. Yeah. So, time is your most valuable asset. Use it wisely. The best writers don't just wait for inspiration, they make time for it to happen. Whether it's setting deadlines, using focus techniques, or learning when to step away, small changes can lead to massive results. So if you're feeling stuck, remember, you don't need more time. You need better strategies. You can connect with people like Jones to help you explore better strategies. Start today and watch your creative work strive. Thanks for tuning in to the Minute Mastery Podcast. If you have found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who could use more time in their day. And remember to subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, you are in control of your time and you've got this.